And then I wish we could give you the 1 hour. So many of the CPAs have asked me, we'd like that 1 hour of legal Georgia ethics. Unfortunately, we're unable to give that to you. That you'll have to try to pick up somewhere, but at least you can knock out 3 of your 4 hours if you're a CPA for the Georgia Society this way. All right. And then I'll finish up a little bit on OB3, the one big, beautiful bill. So we got a big day. We're going to also have Sandy Bay in here just before lunch. She'll be in for an hour to speak to you. Conservation easements and mining. How you can get credits for doing mining. We're trading out. We're putting over here. Oh, and by the way, if you want to bring me in a close-up on this jam, I want to show them my new little friend here. I've renamed my microphone Kibble. No, actually, no, wait a minute. On Tribble. Sorry. Man, I can't even get the name right this morning. If you were a Star Trek fan back years ago, you know the story about the Tribbles, little furry creatures. Well, when I saw this microphone, when Jam first put it on me, I thought, it looks like a Tribble. So I got my new little friend Tribble here. He's going to help me with the broadcast this morning. So, Kibble. No, that's what you feed the dog, Ben. Okay. Okay. Boy, how easily your mind can play the games with you. The older you get, the more fun you have. You're going, wow, did I really just say that? Okay, but if we can get the screen up for stablecoin, we're going to spend a little bit on stablecoin, and then we're going to jump right into Trump accounts. There we go. Understanding stablecoins. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to talk about what a stablecoin is. How do you use stablecoins? We'll get into any taxable transactions involving a stablecoin, talk about its limitations and benefits, and then whatever else we can add into the kitchen sink, we'll add it in. Okay, next slide. All right. Stablecoin is actually a cryptocurrency designed to maintain a stable value. Well, Ben, where is the fun in that? I mean, you know, I like thinking about buying something for like 200, like we were talking yesterday. Back in 2013, you could have bought Bitcoin for $272, $278. And of course, these days it's worth 100,000. Yeah, that's what you're looking for. So stablecoin is different. Stablecoin is going to be something that actually gives you an alternative to using paper dollars. Instead of using these little rascals to pay for things, you'll be able to go on with a card, maybe something like a debit card, or go online if you're paying for something instead of going through PayPal. You'll be able to say stablecoin. And supposedly you're going to have some kind of a financial institution that's going to handle all your stable coins. And you'll probably get some kind of a card. And stable coins are set right now to trade dollar for dollar on regular dollars. Well, what's the benefit with that? Well, if you use a debit card, it has to go through a whole series through the ACH, the automatic clearinghouse, and it's got to do all these other things to clear. If you use a stable coin, you can trade with people anywhere around the world. If you're buying something in France and you pay with stable coin, they got their money just like that. Stable coin will become a universally accepted monetary system that will not replace but complement currencies around the world. And they'll usually trade for whatever the trade is that day. If it's based on dollars, whatever dollars are trading for in euros, that'll be that trade for the day. But stablecoin will just be a means of paying for something without having to use credit cards, without having to do wire transfers. It's going to replace the old banking system. So understand, the banks are not embracing stablecoin. Wait a minute, how are we going to get all of our our fees and our profits, and we want that $25 wire transfer fee. Well, this is going to eliminate the wire transfer fee. So stable coin, you're going to hear more about this. They sort of dropped it on us when under Trump when this first started, and it was like, here it is. I'll come back to it later. I got a few other things to take care of. We got to end a few wars and take care of some things. So he's out taking care of everything else. But stablecoin, there is legislation now that allows stablecoin to be used dollar for dollar. It's gonna. At first, the government was talking about using digital dollars. Sounds like a TV show, doesn't it? But whether that's going to ever materialize, don't know. If they do come out with digital dollars, it will be a form of stable coin. And again, the key word here, stable. So once you buy it, it's going to be whatever a dollar's worth. I know it's not exciting. It doesn't have any glamour to it. But I want you to be familiar with what it is. So don't go out buying stable coins thinking that you're buying them for $10 today, they're going to be worth $100 down the road. No. If they're worth $1 today, they'll be worth $1 10 years from now. That's why they use the word stable. So it's a denomination of currency, and it will be complementing a dollar. Okay? Like I said, it trades dollar for dollar. All right. Let's see. It's going to make it ideal for everyday transactions. You'll have it on your phone usually. And I don't know how many of you use your phone to pay for purchases and stuff. I see the younger people doing it all the time. They'll put their cell phone on the little keypad there, and boom, it transfers the money. This will be the same thing with stablecoin. You'll have stablecoin tied to your cell phone. And when you go to pay for something, you'll just drop instead of a credit card on top, you'll just put your cell phone over the top and it'll take the transfer by stablecoin. Supposed to make it easier, faster, more efficient. And like I said, the banks are not embracing this. So if you're talking to your banker, what about stablecoin? Oh, you don't want to get involved with that. They're not going to want to hear anything about stablecoin because it's taken away their profit. That's how they've made money all these years. Last thing they want to do is see you with stablecoin. Okay, next slide. All right. Right now, stablecoin processors that are already on. Any of you work with interactive brokers? You see 1099 consolidated statements from interactive brokers? Okay. Yeah. So, you see it through your customers. But interactive brokers is one of those that is going to be using this. Also, Robinhood and Visa is getting on board. Is Visa a bank? No. Visa is a credit card company, but they see where the future's going. And they're saying, wow, we better get on this train before MasterCard does, because otherwise we're going to be left in the dust. Visa has been trying to catch up to MasterCard for years. And, right now, Visa's making some good moves, but, they want to get ahead of this as far as stablecoin. Like I said here, a second bullet, US dollar and stablecoin are interchangeable on a one-for-one basis. One stablecoin equals $1. Some of the stablecoins that are out there right now are Tether, Coin, Day, or Die, I don't know, and PayPal USD. So these are companies that are jumping on board with stablecoin. Okay, next slide. Now, stablecoin would not normally be taxable. Then why? Well, if you have a dollar bill and it's sitting in your wallet, is that taxable? No. It's not a profit-making venture. It's something that's going to be a new form of currency to basically complement the dollar. It's not going to replace the dollar. It's going to be a substitute we're a clone of this dollar over here that the U.S. government's issued. So, it's not anything to be feared. It's going to be a new way of paying for things. Instead of paying for things with stuff in your bank account, well, let me see how much money I got in my bank account. Well, down the road, young people are going to be saying, how much do I have in my stablecoin account? It's going to be another account for dollar, and you'll easily be able to transfer the money from checking. Now, checking, just so you know, checking accounts, my prediction is checking accounts will be going away. Why? Europe has already eliminated checking accounts. You can't write a check in Europe because they don't want them anymore. They're too much trouble. The banks don't make enough profit. There's always some, but the indication is right now the rest of the world is dropping checking accounts. The U.S. will probably be the last place that still uses checks. They'll want to have everything digital at some point, so that in lieu of a checking account, you'll be able to do transactions like Zelle. Any of you work with Zelle? Yeah, Vic.
Yeah, Ben, I was wondering, since I do a lot of digital transfers with my checking. I never write a check. I'll transfer funds to someone I want to transfer funds to. That's not going to be much different than that.
Okay. Vic's issue was he does a lot of automated monthly transactions already done on the computer, so he pays utility bills. Yeah. So you pay your bills online.
Yeah, I guess you.
Yeah.
They're paid automatically.
Okay.
More than that, if I want to transfer funds, I can do it digitally within a second or two.
Well,
someone else.
It's not going to be any different. Okay. Is he saying he transfers funds digitally all the time? Well, this isn't going to be any different. The only difference is you're going to be, instead of having it to a dollar account, you're going to put it to a stablecoin account.
I'm just saying that digital aspect may save money.
Okay. Well, but all right, let me talk to the group out here on online. Okay, so you folks online, this is not going to replace your bank accounts. It's going to give you a new medium that you can trade for internationally that you would not normally have. If you were trying to trade dollars for euros, it would take several days or several hours for that to happen. If you transfer your money into stablecoin, it's instantaneous. They'll accept stablecoin immediately. They won't have to worry about transfers of, what's the exchange rate? Time. It's all going to be automatic. Stablecoin will go for whatever that trade is for the day, but it'll be instantaneous. They'll be able to say, okay, well, we got your stablecoin here. We're sending the order right out to you. Instead of waiting 2 days for the bank, all the bank transfers and everything to clear, this will be an automatic deal. This is more for international trade than it is domestic, because domestically we already have debit cards and credit cards, and those are accepted immediately. Understand, this is going to complement your debit card. It's going to complement your credit card in the U.S. But if you do any business with Canada, you do any business with Mexico, you do any business anywhere else around the world, this is going to speed up that transfer in just a moment. It'll be instantaneous. Once you transfer stable coins for something that you're buying in a country, it'll be automatic and it'll be fast. All right, folks, believe me, I understand. I tried to overthink this thing too. When I was writing this material, I thought, what would they really want to know? Well, like I said, it's not glamorous. It's just stablecoin. It's just a new way of paying for things on an international basis that can be an instant transaction. That's really all it is. But you'll use it in the U.S. because it'll become another form of currency that you accept. Yeah.
This is not crypto.
This is not what?
Crypto. It's not crypto.
It is a cryptocurrency.
Oh, okay.
But it's a cryptocurrency that the U.S. government has chosen to embrace.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
The government, like I said, when they first started with this thing back around February or March, they accepted this. They got it approved, signed off on, and they agreed that we would take stablecoin. Why? Because it's not volatile. It's not doing like Bitcoin where it's up to 115 today and it's down to 99 tomorrow. You know, it's and those are hundreds of thousands. Yeah. So it's a new form of currency. They could have, and again, in this same bill, it said digital dollar on the table. That could be considered at some point. And from what I understand, the Treasury already has trillions of dollars of digital dollars all ready to go out. You know, moving forward, I know for most of us that are a little older, you know, should I say a little older? You know, this just seems, well, why would you want this? Well, it's not us. It's the younger group is embracing this. They want digital, fast, speedy. I want it now. And this is the way that that can happen in their world. When you and I are all gone, they're going to be thrilled because they're going to have fast money that they can do things instantaneously on the internet with anybody around the world. Now, also, that's probably going to open up the opportunity for a bunch of hackers and thieves, but that's not our problem. Somebody else is going to have to deal with that. Okay, let's go back on the slide. Where are we? All right. You know, so really, there's not going to be any taxability. You know, if there was some kind of a profit, your broker would send you a 1099 DA. All right, Ken. What's a 1099 DA? It's a 1099 digital assets. You'll probably see some of those forms this year. If you haven't seen them before, they're supposed to start coming out this year. Oh, okay. Let's see what our question is. Somebody just wrote up a comment. I bet they're going to use stablecoin to refinance the government. You know, I don't know, but that might be a good idea. Well, you know, I think the one thing, now you have to understand, you know, there's a lot of people that have a dislike for Trump, but I tell you what, he does a lot of good things for the country. And one of the things he did was he brought in crypto for one special reason. The government has seized a whole bunch of cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoins. Okay.
I get my own.
You got your own Tribble.
Tribble.
Okay. So if somebody's got a comment, you'll probably want to share. You're now the mic man.
All right. I know
Okay.
my question was just, so is it like Venmo? Because Venmo's.
Venmo is Venmo or Zelle. They're all very similar. The only difference is they use US dollars. This uses stablecoin, which is a crypto. But crypto. Okay. All right. Let's go back on the screen. What do we got? Oh, the DA, digital assets. So you're going to see this 1099 DA this year, especially for a lot of young people that might be involved in buying and selling cryptocurrency. Now, these are people that get involved with Ethereum, with Litecoin, with Dogecoin. I don't know if I'm going to have too many customers that are going to be in Bitcoin, but I tell you what, and I know I've told this story before, but for the sake of some of the new people that might be online, some of you just take a second, check your cell phone if you don't want to hear the story. But I had a young man that came in. He was probably not more than about 20, 21. And he got involved back several years ago, probably 5 years ago. He got involved with Dogecoin. Now, initially he bought Ethereum. And he bought Ethereum back then for $1,400. He put the $1,400 into his digital wallet, another fancy name for his account. And he was sitting on Ethereum, expecting to become a millionaire overnight. Well, Ethereum was going up and down and up and down. He made $10 today. He lost $9 tomorrow. It wasn't fancy enough. It wasn't moving for him. So he talked to his broker and he said, I want to buy something new. Give me something new. Well, this was about the time that Dogecoin was coming out. Now, I know Doge has the same name as, Department of Government Efficiency, but this is not the same deal. So the Dogecoin was just coming out and it was valued at 0.0001 cent per Dogecoin. So he took his $1,400 worth of Ethereum and he bought 14 million Dogecoins. Okay, Ben. So now he's sitting on 14 million Dogecoins. Well, if any of you remember, Elon Musk, this was right after Elon Musk and a couple of the other big guys up there in the economic world decided to embrace Bitcoin. Elon Musk said, you know what? This Dogecoin sounds interesting. And he took an interest in Dogecoin, and Dogecoin went from just a speck up to 14 cents a Dogecoin. Oh, big deal, Ben. So Dogecoin went to 14 cents. Well, if you got 14 million of them, that's $1.8 million. So this kid all of a sudden has $1.8 million, and one of you sent him to me, said, go see Tallman. He can figure this out for you. And so the kid comes into me, and I looked at it and I said, you've only had this for like 3 or 4 months. I said, so it's short term. I said, if you sold it right now, it would be taxed as ordinary income. And since it is an investment right now, you're going to be looking at not just 37% tax rate, but 3.8% net investment income tax on top of it. So I said, you're going to be looking at over 40% federal. And back then it would have been 6% Georgia. I said, 46% tax if you cash this whole thing in tomorrow. Well, what can I do? I said, why don't you take out just enough money each month to live on? Sell 10,000 Dogecoins or whatever you need to live on each month. And I said, you take it out. And I said, once you get to 12 months, we go back to long-term capital gains and we can live with this. We got another comment? No? Okay. So, I gave him his marching orders. I told him, listen, you can live very comfortably here. You take out just enough money to live on each month, you're going to be fine. But telling all his friends he was a millionaire. Oh, really? Show us. Where's your fancy car? Where's your fancy, this and that? Well, I know the kid, he caved. He must have caved because I never heard from him again. And I'm guessing he's probably sitting there with $1 million tax bill right now. So I tried to warn him, but who knows? Maybe lightning will strike twice for him if he can find another good investment. But that's my interesting story about somebody that I've actually run into that's made $1 million plus on investing in cryptocurrency. Now, like I said, I don't know any of the folks that have bought Bitcoin, but those people that bought Bitcoin back when it was selling for $300 or less, oh, believe me, they are probably thrilled. They're laughing all the way to the bank. I mean, so if you had 10 of those puppies, you're a millionaire right there. So, hey, if we could jump back in that time machine, it could be interesting, but they haven't found a way to get it to work yet. Okay, so 1099 DAs are something you'll see this year. Capital gains rules normally apply per IRS if you do have appreciation in something that you sell or trade. You understand now with cryptocurrency, trading is more critical than buying or selling. People don't usually sell it and turn it into cash. They usually trade it for another crypto or multiple cryptos. it's like, this one just isn't doing enough for me. I got to go find one that's more volatile, more active, something that's jumping up and down. And so, again, but when they trade a cryptocurrency, is that a taxable transaction? Absolutely, sure is. So this is what you need to be looking at. Okay, what else we got on the screen here, Jam? Now, if you receive stablecoin for services you provide or getting paid through stablecoin for earnings of work that you've done, is that taxed as ordinary income? Yes. Why? It's the purpose of the money being paid to you. Well, Ben, I thought stablecoin got taxed as capital gains. Well, as an investment, it does. But when you change the nature of what it's used for, it's going to change the nature of the tax. So there are some people that like hard, fast rules. Well, you told me capital gains. Well, that was as an investor. But this guy over here paid you for 2 days worth of work and he paid you in stablecoin. Yeah, can I count it as capital gains? No. Sorry, doesn't work that way. Okay. Next slide, Jam. All right. The big issue right now is finding a recipient that accepts stablecoin. You know, I got a lot of clients that wanted to pay me with Zelle. Now, this goes back probably 4 or 5 years ago. Well, I finally found out that my credit union account allowed me to set up a Zelle account. And so I set that up. I tell you what, folks, I offer every client, you want to pay me with Zelle? Yeah, here's my information. It's quick, it's easy, it's great. And unlike, what was the other one you were talking about? Venmo. Unlike Venmo, Venmo holds your money for 3 days. And they usually charge you a fee when they do that. Zelle doesn't charge you a penny and the money's in your account within 15 to 30 seconds. When they hit the button to pay you through Zelle, usually I'll have my cell phone go off within 15 to 30 seconds and I look at it and there it is. Zelle funds have been deposited in your account. And so folks, I tell you what, choice between Venmo and Zelle, I'm using Zelle all day long. Yeah, Belinda.
A question about Square accounts. So if you accept payments through Square, do you know if it's can you accept stable coins through Square, or since it's a credit card?
Okay, her question is, she uses Square for her payments. Can you accept stable coins through Square? Well, I tell you what, Belinda, I guess you're going to have to ask Square, will they accept stable coins?
Okay.
Because it's not going to be people our age that you're going to worry about. It's going to be the young people that all of a sudden they move all their money into stable coin.
Right.
And, you know, do you accept stable coin? Well, it trades dollar for dollar.
Okay.
If you have a bank or a credit union, and like I said, banks and credit unions are probably not the friend of stablecoin. It may have to go more through a PayPal account. How many of you have PayPal accounts? You ever have clients pay you with PayPal? That works out good too. I got people, I had one in here this year that he owed me $800 and he said, Ben, I got a $500 limit on my Zelle account. I said, well, do you have PayPal? Yeah. I said, well, pay me 500 with Zelle and pay me the other 300 on PayPal. Now, the unfortunate thing is PayPal, 300 comes in, they credit my account for $297. So they take their $3 fee off of that. They get a 1% fee on PayPal. So, you know, I would say check with them, but you probably, and folks, I tell you what, for people that forget their check or if you don't take credit cards. Now, I don't take credit cards because I don't want to pay the fees all year. I only got 10 weeks a year that I'm really receiving a lot of funds, except for the extension period. So maybe 12 weeks of the year. So why would I pay for merchant fees 12 months of the year? Now, some of you justify that, and that's great. But so I take either checks or I take Zelle, or I take cash as a last resort. Now, I've had people run out to the ATM to get me cash.
Right.
Man, I forgot my checkbook. Take credit cards? No. Could you work with Zelle? What's Zelle? Well, I know at that point it's a lost cause. And so I'll say, well, there's an ATM right down the street. I'll hold your return here until you come back. And
Square's not doing it yet, but they're on the, I mean.
they're thinking about it. Okay. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Okay, so we just found out Square's not doing it yet, but they're considering it.
Well, they're on the.
Okay.
Should be in 26.
But I would encourage you, if you haven't looked into Zelle with your current bank or credit union, take a look. You might be surprised. If they take Zelle, I tell you what, once you try Zelle, it's going to become your new go-to because you get your money. You don't have to take the check, or you don't have to run the credit card, or you don't have to run Venmo and wait for the money to show up 3 days later. It's there. It's in your account. We got another comment?
It's a comment.
Let me go check the comment board. Wow. Well, this is from Donnell Ricks. Donnell says that she now uses Venmo. The money's in the next day and they don't charge her any fees. I don't know how that works. Because of Venmo, I always was told that Venmo would charge you fees, but you're still waiting until the next day to get your money.
If they mark that it's a business, it'll charge.
Okay, so Donnell must be receiving the money as an individual. And my Zelle, I receive in a personal account as an individual. So you're probably right. If it's shown as a business, then it's going to be. Now, what I do, I don't know how many of you do this on your income ledger, but on my income ledger, I show anytime I receive money by Zelle, I put Z or Zelle in there. If I receive cash, I put cash in there. Why? Because if IRS ever wants to come back and see your income journal, all right, how much money did you receive in Zelle? I got them all shown. I'm showing how much money I got came from Zelle. And on the one for Zelle and PayPal, Zelle 500, PayPal 300. So that if I ever get audited myself, I want to be able to cover. Here's the ones I got in cash right here. No, I don't run a cash business, but occasionally people will pay me in cash. Yeah, Vic.
Man, I have a PC. Can I use that to collect funds?
You have a
PC.
PC?
Yeah.
You can do that, but you're going to list your PC as a business. They're probably going to charge you a fee.
Oh.
See, if they're paying you with cash, or if they're paying you through Zelle, they're going to pay you personally. I mean, I don't think I'm beating anybody out of money here, but Zelle, evidently, if you run it as a business, they hit you with fees. So
Yeah, it's a business personal.
yeah, so if you set up an account, for your company name, you're probably going to get hit with fees. So that's your play. Back up on the screen, Mr. Jam, if you don't mind, please, sir. There we go. All right. Stablecoin. At this time, it's not yet legal tender, but I think it will be. I would say in the next year, stablecoin will become legal tender. It's where he's got a crypto guy in his cabinet, and Scott Benson is also on board with crypto. So he's got people in key positions that embrace crypto, stablecoin in this case, and it makes perfect sense. It's where they wanted to go. All right. Stablecoin can be used for purchase, sales services, buying and selling securities, foreign transaction, funding your digital wallet. Why would you have it? You heard me yesterday talk about digital wallet. Why would you have a digital wallet? Because you have a crypto broker. So if you got Robinhood, Robinhood's going to label your account a digital wallet. Is it any different from the word account? No. Just a fancy name to say, hey, you're involved with crypto. You have a digital wallet. Look at there. And you pay monthly bills if they accept. All right, next slide, please, Jam. All right. They are built and fiat collateralized by U.S. and other currencies on a one-to-one basis. Here it is. Under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, there are new reporting requirements that apply to brokers, exchanges, and providers. That's why you see places like Robinhood. Robinhood now has the Robinhood investment account and the Robinhood crypto account. So when you're looking at Robinhood and they hand you the investment account, do you also have a Robinhood crypto? Oh, that's what this other page is here. So ask for both because Robinhood has the two different accounts, the crypto account as well as the investment account. Yes.
Will the 1099-DA be like a 1099-B for crypto? Or is that...
My understanding is the 1099-DA will probably be like a 1099-B in other transactions. I haven't actually looked closely at the form yet. It could also have a spot for dividends. No, because it's going to be appreciated value. Crypto doesn't pay dividends. They don't pay interest. Yeah, it's going to be like a 1099-B. It's going to show transactions. So it's just, the government has been crazy on this for years, wanting to know about who owns cryptocurrency. Because as you heard me say yesterday, when we were talking about crypto, you didn't, but everybody else did, that if you have cryptocurrency, and where was my thought going here? The government doesn't have any access to who owns what crypto. It was set up that way deliberately. It was set up to have an anonymous owner, and the people that first developed crypto, got another one? What? We got problems? Comment, another comment, thank you. But it was set up initially to be secretive so that the government never knew who owned the cryptocurrency. That's why they've gone to such extents to say, we need forms on digital currency. We need to have brokers now disclosing this information. The people that originally bought Bitcoin, they're in the shadows. The government has no idea how many millionaires are running around with 10 or more Bitcoin that they bought way back when for so cheap that now they're sitting on quite a nest egg. The only way that they would know is if you converted that in some way to cash and it showed up in a bank account. Oh, Bobby, what's this $100,000 that you had deposited in your account here? Where'd that come from? You know, that's the only way they're going to know. Because if you check the box, I own crypto, then they say, oh, okay, well, this guy, we want to make sure we're looking, or this gal, we want to make sure we're looking at them for cryptocurrency. But if you don't check the box, they have no idea. We could have millionaires all over this country sitting on 10 or more 10 or more Bitcoins, and the government has no idea. Until that money reaches the surface, nobody would ever know. Let's see. Where are we? The comment. Okay, okay, same here. We must have an individual account because business accounts always start. Yep. Keely, that's a good point. Keely Burke says that you must have an individual account because business accounts always charge. And we all agree with that. From what I got here from Ryan says that stablecoin is also accumulating gold. Well, it's like the US dollar. The US dollar is accumulating gold too, because it wants to have that gold reserve to back up the money. But yes, to give stable coins some value, there probably has to be something tangible standing behind it. You're either going to have a whole warehouse full of US dollars, or you're going to have gold. So yes, that's a good point. They are accumulating gold to back up stable coin.
But wouldn't that sort of vary with I mean, gold can go up and down for a lot of reasons.
Doesn't matter. Gold is still going to be valuable. It's a commodity that'll always be tradable.
I understand
on-
that, but wouldn't that make the other one more volatile instead of being more stable?
No, because stable coin's still going to be dollar for dollar. Doesn't matter what's backing it up. With the U.S. government,
Okay.
now when the U.S. government, the gold reserves at Fort Knox went from, the government has that gold valued at like $400 an ounce at Fort Knox. Well, we know that gold is now valued at over $4,000. They haven't upgraded the values at Fort Knox. To Fort Knox, their value is still based on $400 a troy ounce for gold, not 4,000. So I hear what you're saying. It's not our problem, Vic. Don't jump into things that create more anxiety in your life. It's not our issue to worry about, but I see where you're coming from. It's not going to change the value of stablecoin. Stablecoin is always set up to be dollar for dollar. Stablecoin will always be equal to $1. Okay? So no matter what backs it up. Now, for Bitcoin, if Bitcoin were accumulating gold, that may be the reason why Bitcoin's going up and down with the values. But right now, you're trying to treat this like a stock. It's not. It's a crypto. And crypto is always looking at trying to back up it, make it. The only thing that gives crypto value right now is the fact that it's a complicated software program. But unfortunately, with Bitcoin, there's 21 million of these things running around. So it's not unique. And the other cryptos have been built around the framework that Bitcoin first established. Okay? So to make people feel more secure getting involved with crypto, some of these accounts have started accumulating tangible assets like gold, silver, other things that make people feel more comfortable. Well, it's backed by gold. It's backed by silver. Just like the US dollar used to be backed by gold. We used to have gold certificates. Of course, it's been a long time since, and then we finally got down to silver certificates, and now those are gone. But they used to tell you, for your $1 silver certificate, we got $1's worth of silver stashed away in the treasury here somewhere to cover the dollar. That's the way it used to be. Your dollar bills were backed up by real tangible assets. That's what they're doing here. They're just trying to copy the U.S. government and what we did to back up our currency. So you're overthinking it, Vic. Don't worry. You're fine. Okay. And you know what? Jam, my friend. Reg, go ahead and sign and pass it around. Everybody gets to sign their name. Okay. And yes, they can serve as a safe haven during market volatility and can be invested worldwide. So understand the one thing with stablecoin, it can transcend beyond sovereign borders. It can be invested in any country, anywhere in the world. If you want to invest in stocks in Europe or stocks in Asia, you have no problem. Stocks in India, you can do that with stablecoin, no problem. You don't have to wait and get it converted over to the rupees to other currencies. Okay, let's go back on the screen. What have we got here? Next slide, please, Jam. Oh, guess what? We're done with stablecoin. All right, let's flip over to Trump accounts. All right, next slide. Next slide, please, Mr. Jam. Okay, so what is a Trump account? That's what we're going to talk about today. How do you qualify for Trump accounts? And we're going to get into all the eligibility eligible investments. Where can Trump accounts invest? We're going to talk about qualified rollovers into a Trump account. What happens if someone dies? What exceptions apply? We'll talk about general rules on Trump accounts and rules on contributions. Who can contribute? Next slide, please. Is it not moving? Oh, okay. So first of all, what is it's sort of like a type of IRA. It's not actually in with the classification of IRAs, but just to give you a general explanation, it's like a type of IRA. It's for people that are, slide back up, please, Jeff. It's for newborns up to children 18 years of age. So it's only for young people. All the earnings are tax deferred. And the contributions to this account are not tax deductible. Sounds a little bit like a 529, doesn't it? But that's for education. This is sort of all encompassing. No contributions can be made to this account until July 4th, 2026. So that's the 1-year anniversary of the signing of OB3, isn't it? One big, beautiful bill. Okay. No distributions take place. The recipient turns 18. You notice the little asterisk up there? That means there can be some exceptions. I don't know if I don't remember whether I put the exception on the slide or not, but it is in your material. In fact, it's in your book. If you look in your books, and John, I'm sorry, you're the only one that doesn't have a book, but if you look in your books, your tax book, it actually addresses, in chapter 5, it addresses the Trump tax accounts. Trump accounts. Trump accounts, that's what they call them. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how do you qualify? Well, you need to select a U.S. dependent age 18. Could be a child, could be a grandchild, could be a nephew, could be a niece, could be somebody in the school system where your children go that you feel needs a break in life. You know, occasionally strangers will want to help out someone that they see potential in. You might go for, what are some of these things that they do with parents where you introduce one of your parents and this is their career and they talk about you? What page is that on in 5? Page 5-12. So it's chapter 12, chapter 5, page 12. 5-12 is the page that will start and give you details on Trump accounts. Now, the key is the dependent must have a social security number. You notice I use the word dependent, but this doesn't prevent you from somebody else's dependent and trying to help out somebody in need. If you see a kid out there that's deserving and you know that his family or his parents don't have the money to put into it, could you put in $1,000 for them? Sure. Is it tax deductible? No, it never has been. But if you're doing something good for somebody you think it'll help down the road, why not try? Okay, what else we got here? Dependent must have a social security number. So this eliminates, unfortunately, anybody with an ITIN number. You do have to be naturalized or U.S. citizen to qualify. You would follow the IRS guidelines, which are still being written up. and open up an account in the United States. It can't be a foreign account. Funds must be invested into special investments. Now, you read further in there, or when we get clarification on what those special investments are, why do they make sure that you limit where you invest? Because they don't want you getting too much on the fringes where all the crooks and the criminals hang out. When they realize that this is a new source of money, there's going to be people that, like Bernie Madoff and a few of those folks, that the government's trying to protect this money. I know people are going to want to try to take an aggressive stance to try to make this money produce as much as they can. But there will be limitations on where you can invest. Okay, so let's go back and see what we got, Jam, on the screen. Contributions are limited to $5,000 annually. So you can put up to $5,000 a year in for your children, your grandchildren, nieces, nephews, whoever you choose. And but you must make it during the calendar year. What is this telling you? It's telling you that this is not going to be like an IRA that you can wait till April 15th. Again, it's not deductible, but they say that you give it in the year and that's when it's registered. First of all, you're not going to get a deduction for it, so why would it matter if you put it in on April the 1st of the next year? It wouldn't, but it's going to count in that year, not in the previous year. I guess this is if people want to start giving $5,000 a year, they don't want to over exceed their limit. But you have to put that $5,000 in during the calendar year from January 1st to December 31st.
Yeah, that's the amount between all contributors.
No, Bobby's question is that a maximum amount for that individual, or could it be 5,000 from multiple contributors? My understanding is it can be 5,000 from multiple contributors. But this is so new that if someone wants to take a quick glance in there, if you see under contributions of 5,000, holler out or let me know if you find something that says it's $5,000. No, it does say $5,000 annually. Bobby, I think I'm going to have to wind that one back. It does look like it's going to be $5,000 per individual, per dependent out there, that dependent can only receive a cumulative amount of $5,000.
Just wondering how you police that.
Well, I'm sure the government would come back and say, we noticed that little Johnny here got $10,500. His limit is $5,000. Somebody's got to take their money back or push it into the following year. I don't know how this is all, Bobby, we're on uncharted territory here.
It does talk about excess contributions.
Okay.
It does talk about that.
$5,000 annual per.
Yeah.
It talks
So
about-
they're going to have to work out the details on what's going to happen if there's excess or if too many grandparents are all trying to give to the same child. They'll work it out. Right now, since this is brand new, we're still waiting on the regulations that govern this.
When you can't even contribute till next year.
And you can't contribute until next July anyway. So be aware of that fact. You can't put in right now. But I'm going to show you something where the government can put in $1,000 here very shortly for a newborn. All right, let's go back up on the screen. Now, that $5,000 will be adjusted for inflation come 2027. So $5,000 might be $5,122. Who knows? Next slide, please, Mr. Jan. All right. Any mutual fund or exchange traded fund which tracks returns of a qualified index like the S&P 500 or the Dow or the Dow Transportation or any of the index funds. But again, We're still waiting on a lot of clarification. They're going to extend this, I guess, as they write it out. But right now, the example that we have is the S&P 500, probably the big three. All right, let's go back up on the slides here. Okay. Does not use funds as a leveraged account. What's a leveraged account? Any of you work with options, puts and calls? Okay. Why not a leveraged account? Because if you invest in options, and if the options go the wrong direction, you not only owe the money that's in there, but you might owe more on top of that. So they're basically saying, yeah, you could make a lot of money on options and calls, but you could go broke real quick too. Sort of like playing blackjack in Las Vegas. You could go through your money real quick if you go all in. Not blackjack, Texas Hold'em. Where's my mind?
If you're in Vegas, you're playing anything.
Yeah, you could lose your money real quick. No, the reason we have in our neighborhood, we have a bunch of us old fogies that probably once every month or two we get together and play poker. We throw $10 a piece into the pot to get chips, so we're playing with 10-cent chips. So you're not losing any real money, but it's all for fun. So, but we just got through with Texas Hold'em, and I got to the final table. We had 2 tables of 8 apiece. I got into the final table, but I was just barely holding on. Probably the first 20 minutes after I got to that table, I was out too. But when you're playing Texas Hold'em, it is easy because if people want to bluff you out and they got a big pile, I'm all in. You're looking at your little pile and say, well, if I go up against that, I better know that I got a winner. Okay, has nothing to do with this session. Sorry. So we're back over here. Okay, I am hardly the person to talk about Texas Hold'em. There are a lot of people that have much more knowledge than I do on that. All right, annual fees cannot exceed 0.1% of the account balance. What is this telling you right here? Big companies like Merrill or like Morgan Stanley, they're probably not going to be interested in handling your account because there's a limit to what they can charge in fees. So you're probably going to be limited to a small group of small brokerage firms that are willing to take this amount, and they try to do it in volume. You're going to find out later on today when we talk about reverse mortgages, there's only probably 2 or 3 companies that handle reverse mortgages because there's not enough profit in them. The only way they're going to make a profit is if they turn volume. If they're able to turn enough reverse mortgages, they make it over the long run, over a large number. Okay. So next slide, Mr. Jam, please. All right. Trump accounts may be rolled over to a new brokerage firm, but must be a trustee-to-trustee transfer. What is that telling you? You can't say, give me a check for all the money in the Trump account, because first of all, government doesn't trust you to grab the check. They're saying, no, you got to go from trustee to trustee to have those funds transferred to a different account. Okay, back on the slide. Trump accounts can be rolled into an ABLE account and not subject to the age 18 requirement. What's an ABLE account? An ABLE account is a young person that's disabled for whatever reason. Might be a situation with hearing, speaking, could be mentally challenged, but they're going to require care as a dependent for well beyond their age 18. Switch now. Okay. So, Jam, stand over here for a second. Come here. Oh, right over here on camera.
Oh,
okay. For you people out there online, this is Jam Lewis. He is the man that's making everything happen. And this guy, big applause for him. He has put together this program, and I tell you what, the things that he jumps around and hits buttons and this and that and everything else, I'm going, I could never learn how to do this. You are amazing, buddy. Thank you. You've done a great job for us. Okay. All right. Any contributions in excess of $5,000 limit should be returned to payer by the trustee and return tax free. Okay, there's our answer. So, Bobby, what we were saying earlier is correct. I actually had the answer further down the slides. You know, this is the one thing. I wrote the slides up for this. I probably glanced at it one time after that, and it's like I'm coming back up going, oh, yeah, I wrote that, didn't I? Okay. All right. Next slide, please. All right. The account will cease to be a Trump account on the date of a child's death. So if you have a child that dies, it's not a Trump account. It can be liquidated as any other account can and be used for whatever purpose the parents deem necessary. Age 18 restrictions no longer apply if that child dies. So again, basically, if they die, all bets are off. The exceptions say if parents, you can take the money, that's fine. If you're going to use it for burial or whatever you might be using it for, that's fine. Taxable portion. The taxable portion will be the fair market value on date of death minus the investment contributions over the years. Okay, so if the government is not giving you a deduction when you put it in, like the 529, as long as you use it for education, it's not taxable, right? Unfortunately, with the Trump account, at some point, this is like deferred tax on the appreciation and value of the account. So if over the years, people are putting in $5,000 a year for, let's just say, 16 years, that's going to be $80,000, isn't it? Okay. So if you put in $80,000 over that child's age up to age 18, and the account is now worth $280,000, if the child starts to take that money out, it's going to be prorated if you're taking it out in portions, sort of like an IRA with basis. It's going to be a portion of it. I should have picked better numbers. 80,000. Let's go to 160,000. Let's say that count's worth 160,000, and you put 80,000 in over the years. It's doubled in value. So when the child pulls money out, 50% of what they pull out is going to be taxable income. Now, if the child does this smart and they're going to college, they're doing other things, going to technical school, trade school, I think we call it now, and they're pulling money out, well, as long as they stay below that $15,000 window in 2026, they might report it on their tax return, but none of it's going to be taxable as long as they're under the $15,000 standard deduction for 2026. So just something to think about. Now, if they go in and cash the whole thing out, that's $80,000 that will be taxable. They got 160 back in cash. If they go out and they want to buy whatever they want to buy, 80,000 of that money is going to be taxable. Well, if they're not working, it probably won't be too bad. But if they're working another job already and they're bringing in 50,000, now they got 130,000 on a tax return. Just be aware that this money will be taxable at some point. Trump accounts are deferred tax accounts. They're not tax-free accounts. The whole idea is that this gives young people a head start on putting a down payment in on a house, on starting a new business venture. They have a dream that they want to pursue, and they got $160,000 in an account. Hey, how much better is that for most young people that Grandma, can you loan me $20,000? I want to start a business. Yeah. Yeah.
Just give the kitty tax.
No, well, it's not going to be treated. John, I tell you what, this is brand new. All I can tell you is it's taxable. I don't know the nature of the.
Pull it out, not as it grows, so it helps you avoid the.
You can't pull it out. You can't touch the money until they reach 18. So all the money's locked in. It's not anything you can pull out as you go. The money's locked in unless they die. That's the only exception, or unless they become disabled and you move the money over to a
Right, but in the past, the money grows and then you got to deal with kitty tax. Now you don't have to deal with that. It's growing.
right. Now they will probably have a provision that if you pull the money out early, you're going to pay some ridiculous penalties. You know, we saw how that works with IRAs. If you're under 59 and a half, for most IRAs, you pay that extra 10% penalty. Whether that will be the case here, we don't know. We don't know. Okay. Let's see, can be filed. Okay, again, this is the death rules. Understand what I have up here is this child has died before they turned 18. So these rules that you see up on the screen that you have on your printouts, that only deals with people, with young people that have died. And this can be either filed on a 1040, a final 1040, or a 1041 using the K1 form to go back to the parents, I guess. Or if the child's assets are being probated. All right, next. All right, general rules for the Trump account. No contributions are eligible on the year the child turns 18. You notice I use 16 years? Well, if you have a child that was born in 2025, you can't put money in the account till when? July the 4th, 2026. So you can't put money in until next year anyway. And then you can't put the money in the year they turn 18. Therefore, there's only 16 years that you can put in $5,000 a year for that child. Okay, let's see what else we got on the slides, Mr. Jam. Trump accounts cannot be lumped in with other IRA accounts. So they do limit that. Like I said, it's an IRA type of account, but it doesn't come into the IRA family. Also, a trustee must be selected to manage and file necessary reports to the IRS to comply with regulations and guidance. Okay, next slide. Now, here we go. Under Code Section 6434, IRS can make a one-time contribution to a Trump account for a child born between January 1st of 2025 and December 31st of 2028. So these are only going to run 25, 26, 27, 28. It's only going to run for 4 years. But could it be extended? We don't know. Depends on who gets in after 2028. So here we go. You got to be born in the U.S. and the child has to have a social security number. Others can still contribute up to $5,000 annually, so the $1,000 doesn't come off that first year. But if you have children that were born in 2025, when you file the tax return, you would be negligent if you didn't pick up the $1,000 Trump account for that child. So if you got children born in 2025, we don't know what form you're going to be using yet, but you'll have the opportunity with your tax program to go ahead and register that child for a Trump account, showing their social security number. When the government opens back up, I'm sure we'll find out what the form number is and everything else. Well, you open a $1,000 Trump account. So the government's going to fund it. So it's going to come from government funding. You'll probably have to, my guess is you'll probably have to ask the parents, who's your broker? Can you set up an account for this child? Or or the government's going to have a thing. You tell them which brokerage firm you want it to go to, and the government will set up an account number with that brokerage firm and drop in $1,000. Those details have yet to be revealed, John. So we don't know how that's going to transpire. But the fact that the government's giving $1,000 to a newborn, step in the right direction. You heard me talk about yesterday. I'm still sort of in shock and awe here. And like I said, I really feel that God, since I promised my SEP account money to God, God had that puppy grow. But I put in $40,000 in my SEP account in May that as of last month was up to $81,000. 5 months. Now, that money's all committed to God. It's all going, none of that comes back to me. And like I said, probably the first week in December, I'll have them cut checks under QCD from that account, and it'll go out to all these charities. But these charities should be pleased, because I try to do this every year, but usually it's only 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. There's a little loose change that adds up. I've never had money double in 5 months. Market's been crazy. Now, why couldn't I get my other accounts? Well, God didn't put his favor on those accounts. That's all I can tell you. This was one that he decided to favor, and probably for me to use to share with other people. When God decides to bless something for you, if it's going back to him, just sit back and hang on tight, because you might be just blown away by what the results are going to be. And that, with that same logic, if you have $1,000 going in on a child's account 18 years later, if it's gone through investments and it's grown and it's increased, it could see the same thing. Let me move this out of your way. You could see the same thing happen with the child. I mean, you heard me talk about my wife buying NVIDIA, $1,782. That's now worth over $80,000. I'm in awe. And she said, well, you used to own what I did. Why did you sell it? We both bought 20 shares in NVIDIA back then. I sold mine. She kept hers. Like I said, she got a 2-for-1 split, 1-to-40. And then when NVIDIA split, 40 grew to 400. So went from 20 shares to 400 shares. And if you've checked NVIDIA, I don't know what NVIDIA is going for today, but it's around 200. That's $80,000, folks. Don't tell me that right now in this market, a child can't open up an account and potentially have a lot of money sitting for them when they turn 18. And that was the whole thing. You get into these index funds, you get into good investments. Jan, was there a reason you wanted this over here, or do you want to? Okay, sure. Tribble 1, Tribble 2. Okay. Tribbles. That's right. I like to play in the past sometime. I always liked Star Trek growing up. It was fun. I think the series was The Trouble with Tribbles. Okay. Trouble with Tribbles. For those Star Trek fans. Okay. Let's see. Okay, and as we said, 5,000 will be a cumulative total, and interest and dividends and cap gains all remain tax deferred. So you see, if that child's investment counselor, along with parents, do some savvy investing, you listen to Motley Fools, or you listen to the crazy guy, Jim Cramer, or you listen to Charles Payne. They've all got great advice. I mean, Charles Payne is where I've been playing lately, and Charles has been spot on. I just wish I'd listened to him earlier, because some of the things that he calls them 4 bangers and 5 bangers. In other words, you put an investment in, and a year later it's worth 5 times what you put in. And he loves to talk about those things. So, no matter where you get your investment advice, find somebody that seems to be performing. And right now, they can show you some of these stocks that are just off the charts. I mean, I think I saw a couple of the things that I had in my Roth account that I invested in probably the first of the year are up 250% over what I put in. Now, back then I was trying to spread it out. I might only have 30 shares, or I might have 50 shares or something. And I might have only paid $2.75 for it. So if it's up 5 times or 2.5 times, it's not a big amount. But if they all go up that amount, and like I said, in the SEP account, it just went off the chart. Okay, so under Section 128, an employer can even get into the game. They can contribute up to $2,500 annually into that dependence account. So we were talking yesterday about employers that can put in $5,250 towards college expense for an employee or towards paying off the student loans. Well, now we find out employers can also put in up to $2,500 on a Trump account. So it's going to be important that these parents that open up a Trump account for their kids let their employer know, hey, boss, I have a child with a Trump account. If you want to put in up to $2,500, it's a deduction for the business, and it's fringe benefit for me, non-taxable fringe benefit for me. That's a win-win. Any of these things where the employer can write it off as an expense and the employee doesn't have to count it as compensation, folks, that's a win. It really is. Okay. Non-taxable to the employee. And we still have to remember we got that $5,000 limitation on all of the family members that are putting in that contribution. Okay, next slide, Mr. Jam. Okay, and with that said, guess what? We're going to take our break a little early and be back here at 10 o'clock. What? All right.
Like, not like you will too. So he's traveling. He started taking her on vacation. So that's the first time with Christmas. That's awesome. And he always lost
Okay, welcome back. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we are going to be having 3 hours of ethics this time. I actually didn't even think about this when I put in offer and compromise. Offer and compromise actually counts as an ethics.
I didn't
Of course,
realize that either.
it does. So
Thanks.
you'll have if you sign once you sign in, whether you sign in online by texting your name, which you don't need to do right now. Wait until we put up the placard.
I'll hold this.
But when you sign in online and when you sign in here, that will automatically qualify you for 1 hour of ethics this morning. So just to give you a quick update, we'll be looking at offer and compromise right now for the next hour. Then we'll have Sandy Bay in here to talk about mining and conservation easements, different credits you can get for that.
Mining
that-
like for gold or whatever.
Mining for whatever she has mined. I don't know.
Okay.
I guess I'm going to find out when, just
Well,
like
I'll
you.
find out at the same time.
And then we'll have lunch after that. And after lunch, you'll have me finish up OB3, one big beautiful bill. And we'll finish up the day at about 1:15, 1:30 with Dan Holquist. Now, Dan was originally set up for 2 hours, but he has a conflict today. He's actually doing 4 sessions on Zoom, doing 3 on Zoom and 1 on YouTube. And so we ran into one of his conflicts, and evidently Roger didn't clear that up or get in his book fast enough. And so he's only going to be on for the last hour from about 1:15 to 2:30. And at 2:30, we'll wrap up the end of the day. That'll give us 6 hours today. If you were here for the first 2 days, you had 9 hours each day. So that'll total up to 24 hours, 3 of which will be listed as ethics. Now, as I said earlier, for you folks online, we'd love to be able to help you with the Georgia law requirement, the 1 hour of Georgia law. But right now, we just don't have access to those circles or to that training material. So if you're a CPA and you have to satisfy that 1 hour of Georgia law, that's something you'll be able to find online or pick up somewhere. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and pull up on our offer and compromise. Okay. Again, for any of you that have done this, box form 656 is your booklet. Okay. So Form 656 is your booklet. That's got all the goodies you need for an offer and compromise. Quick overview. We'll talk about whether or not we should even file an offer and compromise. Now, let me tell you something. The client can actually go on the IRS website, plug in figures under offer and compromise, and it will tell them whether or not they should file, whether they even have grounds to get offer and compromise. Now, anybody that tells you that offer and compromise is all about negotiation skills has no idea what they're talking about. IRS, might as well negotiate with that wall over there, because you're not going to get any response from the IRS. What do they use? They use the collection potential worksheet. And they will take all the figures off of your 433A form, which is one of the packages inside the 656 booklet. And they will take figures off of that form. They'll put it on the collection potential worksheet, and it will tell you what IRS is willing to compromise for. I mean, it's no big game. Now, again, if they go to an attorney, the attorney is going to charge them 10 grand or 5 grand to do exactly what we just talked about, which can really be accomplished. Thank you, Jam. Which can really be accomplished in about 15 to 20 minutes in your office. So before you even take them down this path of saying, well, let's go ahead and we need 3 months worth of records and yada, 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 make sure that it's even viable for them before you jump in and charge them some outrageous fee for 10, 12 hours worth of your time. I go in, when somebody says, I'll say, now, if you want to, you can go on the IRS website, and that's free. And you can fill it out, and it'll tell you right there what the government is willing to negotiate for. Not negotiate, what they're willing to settle for. Or you can come in here and I'll hold your hand. I mean, I don't literally say that, but in essence, that's what you feel like you're doing sometimes. And I'll sit down with you and I'll take 20 or 30 minutes and we'll see if you have a case that is even worth applying for. Yeah, Alan. A fresh start. Man, you know, Alan brings up a good point. For those of you online, the fresh start people, these are outfits that advertise on the television, and they're offering you a fresh start, and they're going to be, I used to use this thing. I don't know how politically correct it is, but when I was growing up, when you knew you just got hauled in, it was, your fish that just got hooked. And so there are people online that are offering you all these we got a fresh start the government has all these new goodies for you, and we're going to save you pennies on a dollar. Let me tell you something. These outfits have less than a 1% success ratio.
But doesn't the IRS go after
So,
a lot of them too?
Well, the AGs in many of the states do, and they close them down.
Right.
So the attorney generals will close a lot of these out. Hold on, let me finish my thought. The attorney generals, I lose it real quick if I don't. The attorney generals will go ahead and close a lot of these places down. But you have to understand, these are tax mills. You've heard of puppy mills? Okay, these are tax mills. And the fact that they're advertising every 20 minutes on the television station tells you it's costing them a fortune in advertising. They wouldn't do that unless there were millions of dollars in collection fees that they're pulling from people. Now, let me tell you something. If you're thinking, well, this poor couple, they don't have enough money. They can't even hardly pay my fee. How in the world could they afford something like that on television? Let me tell you something. They don't go after the taxpayer. Do you have a grandparent or a parent that could give us their credit card, and we'll just charge it? And all your tax, and believe me, these people take lying to a whole new art form. They lie through their teeth. We're going to settle for pennies on a dollar for you. They promise the world. And unless it's in writing, is it valid? No, it's all a pitch. Believe me, the people on the telephone that take the calls, they're on commissions. How many fish can you hook today? And they get $4,000 to $5,000, sometimes $6,000 a taxpayer, depending on how much you owe. Well, let's see. You owe the government $600,000. Yeah, our fee would be at least $6,000. And if we need more, we'll come back to you. Well, I don't have that kind of money. Well, how about your mom or your grandparents? Can they help you out with their credit card? These folks are vicious. They don't care whose money it is. Just get money in. And then they'll have you fill out a 433A. They'll file you. So maybe they spend 20, 30, 40 minutes on the phone with you getting the information. And then they send it in knowing good and well IRS isn't going to agree with it, or it has no backup documentation. Does it have 3 months worth of all your bills, your utility bills, your car payment, your insurance payment? You know, you can use the federal chart for food and other incidental expenses, but how many members in your family? Oh, there's just 2 of us. Okay, well, we go to the chart. How much did you make that year or this year? You made 100,000. You just followed 2 people, 100,000. This is how much we get for your food and incidentals. How much do you pay for health insurance? They're going to go all through that list. They're going to take it right off the top of the taxpayer's head. No, you don't have to look it up. Just give it to us off the top. And they're going to fill all this out. They're going to put it on a 433A, attach a 656 to it, send it into the IRS. You think IRS is going to respond within a year? Might even go 2 years. Now, if it goes 2 years, we're going to find out there's a special rule that applies. But for right now, hold on, Alan. Vic's ahead of you. Okay. But if it goes for a year and a half, what does the taxpayer think? Oh, my tax debt went away. It's there. Well, life is good. And what is happening? All it did is postpone the inevitable. Because when IRS comes back with a letter and says, we've denied your request for offer in compromise, what's going to happen? Boy, they're going to call. You were supposed to get this. Oh, we need another $4,000 to finish it. It's just like, how much money can we wind them in for? Like I said, their success rate is less than 1%. Accidentally, they might get 1 or 2 approved, but they have nobody on the other end that really cares. These are just, they're tax mills. That's all they are. And, you know, the promises they make on TV, the promises they make to people on the telephone are unethical. It's not even close, Robin. You know, it's about as valuable as chewing gum on the bottom of your shoe. That's what kind of value their word has.
Do you know the percentage of OICs that are accepted?
I don't have, she asked, what's the percentage of OICs that are accepted? I would say by tax professionals, it's probably over 50%. Because why? Because we're using the same chart that IRS uses. Vic, you have an answer for that?
You really have to expect to get a good settlement. You have to expect that. Because you want to go all the way to a settlement where they can just do whatever they want to do. Because as you know, below that, it's and that's what I think when I get someone first. I just go to research.
That's interesting you say that. I had a client years ago. He was one of my black brothers, and he came in. We had worked together, and his name was Robert E. Lee. I don't know what his parents were thinking when they named him. I mean, it may have been cute, but I tell you what, when we filed for his offer in compromise, I've never seen the letters come back from IRS asking for so much ridiculous information, had no pertinence to the case or the offer in compromise. And they basically, what IRS is telling me is, this guy is Robert E. Lee. We're not giving him an offer in compromise till the cows go home. It ain't happening. And I thought, if you only knew, if you only knew who he really was, you wouldn't be holding this against him. But you've already in your mind labeled him as some kind of white supremacist, racist, whatever. And I said, and I was talking to the guy, I said, you realize he's African American. He wouldn't believe me. He wouldn't believe me. The one time that I talked to the IRS rep, and I thought, just crazy. So I know what you're saying. Sometimes you have to go through all these appeals. We never could get it. Well, I mean, we tried everything. We even tried congressmen. Couldn't get anything on it. It's just they had decided right from the start they were blackballing this case, and it was never going to see the light of day again. It was frustrating. It was frustrating for me because I thought, you know what? I pride myself on trying to get things done for people. When I think we have a chance of getting it done, I try to give them positive reinforcement. Vic, you have to understand, back then, I was still working full time for the government and doing taxes on the side. I had 600 clients at that time, but I was running 2 careers. And unless I had, and guess what? The only days I got off were national holidays, and I couldn't get anything done because guess what? The government was closed. So I had limited time and ability to reach anybody at the IRS and try to accomplish anything. So, yeah, this is why when I mentioned the first day that I had 35 years of Social Security paid in, I've been doing taxes in my own practice 1977. So it was easy to get that 35-year accomplishment for Social Security. I mean, when they first started saying, oh, my government pension when I turned 62 reduced me because they said you qualify for Social Security. And my check went down with the government, my government retirement. But as I was hitting years where I was maxing out Social Security, boy, did my checks go up in Social Security, because you max out Social Security, and as that 35-year span shows more and more and more that are max Social Security, it actually is a nice pay raise every year, in addition to cost of living. Of course, I'm still paying full Social Security at 15.3%, or after it works out on the SE form. So I'm dropping what, $18,000 a year just for Social Security and Medicare. So any pay increase I get on Social Security, I'm giving back to them in taxes. Giving back. So I'm basically funding my own increases.
Most of my seniors who have, self-employment income, they're like, I don't have to pay into Social Security. And I'm like, well, you still do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. As long as you're self-employed, you're going to keep paying. And of course, I have a lot of my clients, some of which are attorneys. Why don't you file just an SC? I mean, why don't you just file as a sub-S corporation? I said, get away from me. I can't do that. They don't understand. I have too many attorneys. I know I'm going off script for a few minutes, but I have too many attorneys that they will tell their clients that are self-employed, oh, you go ahead and form an S corporation and you don't have to pay self-employment tax. What's the requirement for an S corporation? That at least one of the owners, if you're a single member, it's you, has to be on a W-2 form. They fail to include that. If you're on a W-2 form, are your Social Security and Medicare taxes being paid? Yeah, on a 941 every quarter. Well, now, Vic, I tell you what. I know you work for IRS too. Back when I was working for IRS, we had a 70-30 split rule. Okay. And if you had someone come in after the fact, couldn't go back and do W-2s for the year, I would go ahead and look at their income that was coming, their net income on the K1. I would multiply it times 70% and put that figure on a Schedule SE to apply self-employment tax against that. It's never been officially given, but back when I was at the IRS, probably when you were at the IRS, we had sort of a given rules, sort of a line in the sand. Don't try to treat more than 30% as dividends. and not subject to self-employment. If you're paying tax on that 70%, sort of a rule of thumb was, well, 70% is good enough. We'll take it. We'll run. And I know the IRS attorneys, a lot of them will still use that 70-30 split. But that's for somebody that is coming in. And then, of course, you encourage them, next year, you be too. Why, Ben? Because the law says at least one of your shareholders has to be on a W-2. You have any other shareholders? No, it's just me. Well, guess what? You're it.
Yeah.
You got to be on a W-2.
It won't show up.
Well, but you also went retirement benefits, section 199 can come into play. There's,
Okay.
you know,
These-
199A.
Okay. I understand. These are all great ideas, but I got to stay on topic. And I tend to wonder sometime if I get down the rabbit hole. But we have Sandy Bay coming in at 11 o'clock. So that's the reason I need to go ahead and get on through this. Okay. So offer and compromise. We're going to, again, the prerequisites are that you got to have a 433A completed. We'll talk about other collection alternatives if we have time. Looking for the perfect fit. And again, if you're filling out the 430, you're having them fill out the 433A and they feel good about things, and you know you're going to get some of the fresh start breaks that Alan was talking about. We'll talk about $3,450 off a vehicle, $1,000 off a checking or savings account. We'll talk about $7,910, I think, off of household goods. We'll get all these things addressed as I move from screen to screen. But, okay. So there's three different categories we'll talk about. We'll talk about ground rules for the current tax year, 433A, which we've already mentioned, the 656. And then what happens when OIC is denied, or what if it gets approved? Okay. All right. So what happened to push this taxpayer to your door? Well, you got to ask, you know, why did you come to me? Well, you were referred by whom? You know, I mean, you know, you got to be careful, because not right now, but if we back up to speed, and Scott Benson is a sharp individual with the Treasury Department. If he gets IRS up and running again, we may see visitations. And guess what? An IRS agent, unless they're questioned, are not going to voluntarily disclose that they're an IRS agent, are they? They're not going to say, I'm a revenue officer or I'm a revenue agent. You have to ask. But always keep that, let your gut, you know, any of you used to watch NCIS, Jethro Gibbs, always used to operate a lot on his gut. Go with your gut feelings sometimes. If somebody is coming in asking questions, I'm going to ask them questions too. Who? Well, I picked up your name on the internet. You know, I'm always, after you've been shopped by the IRS before, you're always thinking in the back of your head, could this be them coming in just to see how I would respond? You know, sometimes your competitors will complain about you. Oh, that Tallman guy, he does all kinds of illegal stuff. He's people down past where they get massive refunds and they don't have any backup for their information. The ones that I reject go to Tallman and he approves them. You know, you never know what people are going to say about you. Lots of times, if you have credibility, if you have integrity, they want to pull you down in the mud. Because how come he's turning away 200 people a year and I can't even get up to full capacity? You know, people do strange things when they get jealous or when they get envious. So I'm just saying, You always look at it from the standpoint, could I have been turned in by somebody else? Could I be a complaint that they're checking out? Could this be CID, Criminal Investigation Division? You know, always keep that in the back of your mind. You never know what the motivation is, but just like the FBI, they can be pretty stealth. CID with IRS can be pretty stealth too, can't they, Vic? They can be. I mean, they're coming in. They've got a complaint about you, or somebody has said something against you that they're checking out. They're going to come in on stealth mode. You're going to have no idea who they are.
We have a civil procedure for that. The first time you see CI is with a normal audit.
Yeah, I agree. Most of the time it would be tied to an audit, but
Yeah, they
But-
come in that way, and that's how it is.
right. Or let's see, what's the national audit thing where you just get randomly selected? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
they got one of those where they do a complete audit on the tax return.
Yeah.
Well, what
Compliance.
compliance audit? Yeah, but those things are set up nationally. That every so many years they'll have it. And guess, one year I had 3 of my clients that got chosen for
I did
that,
too.
and it felt like I was going through a colonoscopy. I mean, it was like, and I felt it was a challenge against me because I we came out clear on all 3 of them, which was good. But boy, did we have to go through the dance to make sure we covered. Why?
Just select audit standards, picking them
To
out.
see if they're
Yeah.
easy to comply to.
Come out and pick out returns statistically.
Now-
And they yield more later.
Now, the one thing, since those three audits, those 3 major audits, detailed audits, I haven't had another client audited. And that's probably going on 5 years. So maybe the diff score, that's a differential score, has gone down on a lot of my clients because they've already given me a full exam and found out that, yes, my clients do hold up to muster on what we file for them. Okay. Where are we? So let's see. And again, you're going to see when you fill out the 433A that not everybody should be filing. If you fill that out and it only saves them 5% in tax, is it worth your time and their time to go through this dance? I mean, you can tell them, listen, you can go online and do this yourself. But if it's only going to save you 5%, it's not worth my time or your time. You'd be better off just going in, set up an installment agreement, and let this baby run. Now, the one thing they will do, they'll go up to 72 months now on a repayment plan, as long as the balance of your full debt is $50,000 or less. If it's above 50,000, you got to have supervisor approval to get into one of these 72-month programs. But you're going to do the test run. I named 433A, that's your personal assets. What's 433B then? Business. So if you got your own business, if you're self-employed, you're going to be filling out both of those forms, one for the business, one for your personal. Okay. And again, as I said from the very start, everything is based on the taxpayer's collection potential worksheet, not negotiation skills. We've talked about the tricksters on TV. Honesty with the taxpayer is so important. And they need to know that when they go to file this, they're going to have to pay a $205 fee just for processing, plus 20% of whatever they feel on the form IRS is going to settle for. We go to that collection potential worksheet. If the collection potential worksheet says you can afford to pay us based on your information on the 433A, you can afford to pay us $8,000. So if you're going to have to pay $8,000, now you got to pay with the application 20% of $8,000 or $1,600 plus 205. So you're right, you're stroking the IRS a check for $1,805 just to send this in. Okay. They need to be aware of that because well, Ben, I didn't think I was going to have to pay him any money. Well, that's where your disclosure up front is important. You realize even if we're going to turn in this paperwork, they're going to charge you $205 just for the application fee, and then 20% of whatever we think your final decision is going to be. Now, well, Ben, if they decide against me, are they going to send me my 20% back? What do you think? No way. Once they get your 20%, it's in the treasury. It's not going anywhere. Call it a down payment. Right. Layaway plan. All right. So, okay, let's see where we are. Next slide. Now, there are prerequisites to filing an offer in compromise. And those prerequisites are you have to be up to date with your current tax return. Well, Ben, I still need to file 23 and 24. Well, then we can't file an offer in compromise for you. Well, why not? Because I said they don't know how much you owe for 23 and 24. Oh, I'm going to get a refund. How do they know that? If you're going to get a refund, you're playing with the 3-year time frame here. You realize that they don't give you any refunds after 3 years, right? Do what? I mean, I had one that came in recently that we did 5 years for. Year 4 and year 5 were sizable refunds. Well, this is going to offset my taxes. You donated all that refund money back to the treasury. What? They owe me the money. I said, you didn't file within 3 years. Statute of limitations is run on this. You don't get a refund. Sorry. Oh, they were livid. Well, who can I blame? I mean, they didn't say that. But who can I blame? Well, here's a mirror. Look in the mirror. You know, I know we laugh about this, but this is the one thing. How many times do we get blamed for stuff that we had no part in? We're just the messenger sometimes. And we get blamed big time. You know, you heard me say yesterday, you got to be so careful when I was talking about conflict of interest that I let them both go. Why? Because I'm afraid I might tick off the wrong one and become a target or I never want to put myself in a position that I could be blamed for something that's going wrong in somebody else's life. Because you have to understand, a lot of people, when life is not treating them well, they look for some kind of in their life, somebody that they can put all the blame on and stack all the blame on and say, you're the reason I'm in this place in my life. You never want to be in that position. So sometimes you have to turn people loose that you might want to keep as customers just to keep that target off of your back.
Our insurance company gave us a little class once and said every year, any clients that don't file on time, any clients that are on an installment payment, or not paying their tax on time, and they don't pay you on time, those are 3 to get rid of.
That's good. John, that's good. John said that he went to a class where they gave him the 3 instructions. If they're not paying the IRS on time, if they're not paying you on time, what was the third one? If they're not filing on time, that's probably a client you need to go ahead and send back out, let somebody else deal with. How many have had a client before? Oh, yes, absolutely. If you got a client that is I fired my own brother one time. And boy, I tell you what, he was dating, or they were really close. He was dating a Greek dentist. And she was big on family. And when I told him I wasn't going to do his taxes or help him with any more, I mean, I went to like 5 audits for him, not with IRS, but with unemployment, with workman's comp, all these other audits. He was constantly getting in trouble. Ben, I got an audit. You got to help me. You got to help me. I thought, goodness gracious, did I get paid for anything I did for my brother?
New Year, brother.
Now, I did get free dental care, and so did my family, because she knew that I was taking great care of her boyfriend, my brother, and boy, he played that widower line really good, though. I mean, he became a widower at like 45. Oh, I'm a widower. Boy, he was just, that was, oh, you poor thing. Tell me about the story. What happened to your wife? She died of cancer. But I mean, never mind. Story for another day. Okay, but getting back here. So, when you have to fire your own family members, I know, by the way, I had to go back and find a new dentist after I cut him loose. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But at any rate, so this is one thing. Make sure their tax returns are all up to date. I mean, you can't file offer and compromise unless they are current. And if they owe money, it wouldn't hurt if they were on an installment plan. Or let me tell you what I like to do. If you're on an installment plan with the IRS, there's a 10-year collection statute. You have 10 years to collect the money. When you go on an installment agreement with the IRS, that does what we call tolls the statute. So it extends the statute out beyond 10 years for as long as they're on the installment agreement. But if you have an informal agreement with the government, what do I mean by informal? If every month the taxpayer writes a check with their Social Security number on it for the back tax, and it's the same amount every month, that's an informal agreement. And IRS can see this on the transcript. They can say, yeah, we see we're getting monthly payments around the 15th every month. You're paying $600 to us. You have an installment agreement? No. Why not? I don't want to toll the statute. Now, most IRS agents know what that means, but you might catch one of the new ones that doesn't. What's toll? Toll what? Does it have something to do with cookies or what? Or no. Toll house cookies? No. I don't want to extend the statute. So this is a way to do this as an informal installment agreement without extending the statute of limitations on their 10-year collections.
Ends, I mean, the remaining amount on that balance goes away.
Yeah. How many of you have had taxpayers where you've pulled the transcript and you found out the CSED date? CSED? Yeah, CSED. The statute, the collection statute expiration date, CSED. Okay. How many of you have looked at the CSED date and found out that it was either coming up very soon or has just passed? And you tell your clients, don't do anything more, because when the paperwork finally catches up with the IRS and they realize the statute has expired, they can't collect that money anymore. Now, if you have a refund, can they still grab that refund? I've seen them do it.
And it starts the clock over again, I believe.
Yeah. You don't want to have a tax return that creates refunds from that point on, because you'll probably never see that money. So you want to stay right around that break-even point with that taxpayer. Okay, let's go back over here. Now the question is, are they being paid on W-2s or 1099s? If they're on W-2s, are they withholding enough money to at least break even by the end of the year? You're in this to try to fix what they broke. What created this tax liability that they now have? Was it under withholding of W-2, or was it because they got paid on 1099s and had to be out of pocket and never paid estimated payments? You have to analyze what got them here and figure out how to fix it. Because IRS is looking for you to fix that too if you're their representative. So you try to set this up so that if they're on W-2s, they're withholding enough tax to at least break even every year. If they're not on W-2s, if they're on 1099s, what new plan do you have to add for their life? Can you say estimated tax payments? And if they've never paid in estimated tax payments, this is going to be foreign to them. But can we now set that up on the tax program so tell IRS to go to their bank account at the time those estimated payments are due and automatically take a direct debit? We have that ability now. We can do that and send it in with the tax return, and it'll automatically be done. Now, what's the critical component? On these dates, you better make sure you have enough money to cover it.
Send reminders.
Yeah, because boy, you do not want it. You talk about kicking the bee's nest. You let IRS try to do a direct debit, and your account says insufficient funds. That does not go well. Okay. All right. If they're self-employed, yeah, estimated tax. We already talked about that. Now, there are some things that automatically negate them filing or prevent them from filing an offer in compromise. Are they currently under investigation by the Department of Justice? Are they currently filing for a bankruptcy? Are they behind in their trust fund taxes, their payroll taxes? Or is this just a frivolous call to try to delay collections? Now, understand, they can add extra penalties if you're coming in with a frivolous claim. So make sure that you're not part of it, because they got prepare penalties they can drop on our heads for $5,000 a pop for filing a frivolous return or frivolous request for offer in compromise. Okay. Next slide. Thank you. Other collection alternatives. Okay. What if you get a letter from the IRS, or they got a letter from the IRS, maybe an 1147 or a LT11 letter that says, we're going to seize, this is a letter informing you of lien and levy and seizure. You have 30 days to respond. What can you do within that 30 days? You file for a CDP hearing, collection due process hearing. What does that do? That freezes IRS's, should freeze, not always, but should freeze them seizing the taxpayer's bank account. Now, even when they seize it, you've got, I think is it 90 days? Vic? I think you got 90 days before they actually take it out of the bank account. So they basically freeze your funds in the bank. They don't actually take the money. They have to, you're given 90 days basically to try to resolve this and get them to withdraw the seizure of your bank account. But boy, you talk about scaring people straight real quick. Let them get a seizure on a large bank account, and that will bring them to your door real fast. Now, CDP hearing will give you a shot at getting that released. Actually, if they wanted to just simply sign up for an installment agreement, that would release that freeze on the bank account. So just be aware of the fact that you have tools that you can use to help alleviate this problem. I had one couple, she worked as a nurse, he worked as a police officer. They got in trouble with a bad tax accountant and wound up deducting a lot of things they shouldn't have, wound up with a large tax debt. And they had kids at home. They had 2 young kids at home. Well, guess what? They garnished both of their wages. It was not pretty. I mean, we had to fight. We had to come in from all different angles to try to get those garnishments pulled. But finally did, and we did it with a cap hearing. be aware of the fact you got tools, and sometimes you feel for their helplessness and your desire to try to help them get out of this mess sometimes is not within your control. You have tools, but those tools still involve government processing, which sometimes takes time. Now, you've heard the nuclear option. The nuclear option that I have only used on a couple of occasions has been to contact senators or congressmen and get them involved. If you have something that's it's taken too long, it's not working fast enough, you could always do a congressional inquiry, and that will get you to the front of the line on your particular taxpayer. So just keep that in mind. That's an idea that works. Now, if your taxpayer, instead of, filing a frivolous request, if they just need a 6-month extension, listen, my grandma just died. I'm in the inheritance. I'm supposed to be getting a check within the next 3 or 4 months. Will you pay the IRS when you get that check? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting $180,000. I only owe the IRS 18. Okay. Well, let's fill out 1127 form. Tell them you got inheritance coming in. You need a 6-month extension, and you'll pay them in full. Guess what? What do you think IRS is going to do when they process this? Stamp it in? Yes, sir. We'll pull the pressure. No, penalties and interest. Come on, Kelly.
I can be.
Boy, man. What are you smoking over there? Wouldn't that be nice? Boy, if you could find the magic combination to get IRS to pull the penalties and interest, we've all had success stories where we've been able to get penalty abated, but the interest never gets taken away. It's statutory. It is. Interest will never come off. Okay. Filing an installment agreement. Like I said, if you need an immediate fix and you're not getting anything else to work fast enough, can you run these things coherently? In tandem? Yes. Yes. You can run a CAP hearing. You can run a CDP hearing. Now remember, you only got 30 days for the CDP hearing. From the date the taxpayer gets the letter to lien and levy, you only have 30 days to get that request in for a collection due process hearing. If you miss that 30 days, you can go to an equivalent hearing, but it doesn't have all the same power and impact. CDP has the most power. I'm all about try to keep all the leverage you can when you're dealing with IRS. And if the taxpayer lets that CDP hearing go after 30 days, that equivalent hearing is like, oh boy, now we're dropping down to the lower level. These people don't have the authority to do the things I want them to do to help this taxpayer. So never concede that authority. I tell so many other CPAs and accountants, when your taxpayer gets the 90-day letter, SND, statutory notice of deficiency letter, when they get that 90-day letter telling them they have 90 days to apply for a tax court petition, that's the time that you need to work with this taxpayer. If you don't have a legal background, or if you don't have a way of filing, call me. I can use my bar number and I can file for them online. But we can help them get filed within 90 days, and it preserves their leverage with the IRS. I tell you what, the settlements that I have seen over the last 3 years are nothing short of amazing. The IRS Chief Counsel's Office, and you've heard me say this before, those of you that have been in here, the Chief Counsel's Office has been given a directive by the tax court. We have too many tax court cases. You will find a way to solve these cases. They're under a mandate from the tax court. Whatever it takes, get this thing resolved. And folks, I tell you what, I have had so many settlements where we've settled between 16 and 19 cents on a dollar. That seems to be their sweet spot right now. They love to go between 16 to 19 cents on a dollar. So you've heard me talk. I mean, I talked about this last year, and then I went back into the case. I thought it was $2 million this taxpayer owed. He owed closer to $4 million. I went back in to look at something, and I thought, man, 2 years was only for that 1 year. He's got 2 years here. He owed $4 million, and we settled him out for $380,000. And he was still squawking. And I said, are you crazy? I said, listen, I said, as you're under attorney-client privilege, I can't release this information to the IRS, but I said, you've got some damning exhibits in here that if IRS wants to look and audit your return, I said, you could very well be charged with fraud. And I said, didn't you talking 4 million plus fraud penalties of 70%? I said, sign the 380.
Let's go home.
Yeah. Now, even Roger can tell you. Roger had a situation back in 2015. He owed him $107,000. I filed for a tax court petition on him. Even though it was beyond the 90 days, I found a code section that got me over the top of that and came in on a different part of the law. And I got to talk to the attorney. And this was where we had filed. I didn't file it, but someone else, one of the other CPA folks in their firm had filed an appeal for a 1040X on the 2015 year. Well, IRS came back and said it was filed more than 3 years and the statute expired. I said, no. I said, they made this adjustment 2 years in after you filed. So you got an extra 2 years. I said, under the statute, they closed that statute of limitations early on you. You're still eligible for that 1040X to be filed. And so I filed it under that premise, put in for the tax court petition, was talking to the IRS attorney. And I said, you see what my problem is here? She said, yeah, I do. I said, they prematurely closed the statute. And I said, clearly he had 2 years from the date that you made the adjustment. And she said, okay, we'll take care of it. So we wiped $107,000 off of Roger for that year. No, excuse me. He owed $9 and some change. And he said, what should I do with this, Ben? I said, pay it. No, Reg, we didn't put him on the installment plan for $9. But I mean, there's some interesting stories that we could go down. But going back to this, where are we here? Okay, you've heard me talk about CDP, cap hearing, equivalent hearing. If you miss the CDP, you get an equivalent hearing. Or, this is one we don't like to usually bring out too often, but if your taxpayer is way in over their head, let's say they've lost their business, they're down to nothing as far as income, they have no potential income source on the future scope in front of them, bankruptcy might be a way to go. And well, Ben, you can't bankrupt against IRS debts. You can after they've been on the books for 3 years. So if they've had any tax debts on the books for at least 3 years on their transcript, you can file for bankruptcy and get those knocked off. Now, what if they've got two that are more than 3 years and one that's within the 3-year limit? Well, how far down the road is that? Can we wait to file bankruptcy until you get 3 years on that one, and then we'll file all three? So it's a little bit of tax planning, but your taxpayer can file Chapter 7 bankruptcy on any debts that are more than 3 years old with the IRS. Now, they have to be on the transcript. That 3 years doesn't go from the date of filing, it goes from the date that it's actually put into the system in IRS. So 3 years, they can file for bankruptcy. Unfortunately, Georgia doesn't play that game. Georgia won't let you file against their debts no matter how old they are. I've had clients that in like 2010 or 11, Georgia was still trying to collect debts from 1991. And the way they do that is they continue to update their judgments. For Georgia, it only costs them like $2 or $4 a taxpayer to just reinstate the judgments that they put, the FIFAs that they put on the taxpayer, fancy legal term. And it costs them next to nothing to update those. So you can have taxpayers with Georgia that are paying debts that are 20, 25 years old. And there's no way of getting around it. I mean, I've been into the tax tribunal to fight on a few of these things. And the good thing is, even though I'm not a member of the Georgia bar, I'm a member of the federal bar. And I have to ask the judge, I'll tell the judge, Your Honor, I have a bar number. I'm a member of the federal tax court. And usually the tribunal judge will look at my thing and he'll say, okay, yeah, we'll let you represent your client here. But that's never guaranteed. That's why I tell most of my clients, if I have to represent in the Georgia tribunal, it's a crapshoot whether the judge is going to let me talk on their behalf or not. But Georgia has a lot of squirrely laws, so don't plan on getting off the hook with Georgia. I had one situation, and again, you've heard this story before, many of you, where a taxpayer owed over $600,000. He used to run a moving truck from Atlanta to Savannah, Savannah to Atlanta. And he'd hire lumpers. Those are the people at each end that would help offload and reload the trucks. They call them lumpers. Never issued 1099s, never got social security numbers, names, or anything else. He pocketed all the money. Well, over the period of 3 years, he wound up owing over $600,000. He married one of my tax clients who was very well-to-do in the communications area with Bell South. She traveled around the world, made big money. I said, okay, to her, I said, first thing we want to do, no assets. His name is not included on anything. I said, you guys got to file separately. I said, don't put a car in his name. Don't put his name on any of your assets until we can get this issue resolved. And we filed, this was back actually on an offer in compromise. We filed an offer in compromise. He was a smart guy. And he realized he couldn't do this anymore because he just continued to perpetuate the debt if he kept running the moving truck. And she said, why don't you take the ACT test? Let's see if we can get you into Georgia Tech or someplace. He took the test, scored high. Georgia Tech took him in on a 5-year program. Well, guess who was paying for his tuition? His new wife, which was fine. So for the next 5 years, he had no potential income because he was on, as a student, on a 5-year program with IRS. IRS looks 5 years into the future on offer and compromise. Well, she sat down across from me, along with him, and I said, how much are you willing to give them? We have to offer IRS something here. She said, $5,000. I said, why don't we make it $6,000? That's a penny on a dollar. So she said, okay, $6,000. So we offered him $6,000. They settled.
Dang.
So we wiped out $600,000 with $6,000. Why? Not due to anything that I did, but because the circumstances allowed it. He was going to have no future income for the next 5 years. We filed everything separate until all this was cleaned up. The only problem was Georgia would not. We tried offering compromise with Georgia on $50,000, wouldn't budge. Eventually, she had to pay that to get Georgia off their back. But just a story how we were able to get this knocked down. Now, if I wanted to go on TV and become one of these crazy people like you see here, one of the crooks, I've settled cases for pennies on a dollar. Yeah, I got one case of pennies on the dollar. But, of course, Rogers, I could say $9 and some change on 107. That wouldn't have been too bad. Okay. All right. Back up on the screen. Where are we? All right. So next slide. And our lady should be coming in almost any time here. Sandy's not here yet. Okay. All right. So just be aware of the fact 205 plus 20% of your offer. It's got to follow the collection potential worksheet, and it needs to be large enough savings so it's worth your time and theirs. if you're not saving them at least 40, 50% on their debt, why take the time? You know, it depends on the size of the debt too. Now, like I said, you're trying to structure their life so that they are now a model taxpayer. And they must be for the next 5 years. Why? Because if they fall behind again in paying their taxes,
It's all null and void.
their offering compromise just went up in smoke. Everything that we worked so hard to achieve, they couldn't keep their nose clean for 5 years. You're going back to tax prison. Not literally, but figuratively. So this is the reason that you want to make sure they understand if you can't keep your nose clean for 5 years and pay your taxes on time, it's not worth it. All we're doing is this is an exercise in futility. We're not accomplishing anything. Got to be that Cinderella fit, the perfect fit. Let's go to the next slide. And where are we? Okay, 3 categories. Most of them are doubt as to collectability. That's the one we've been talking about so far today. I don't think I'm going to have enough money to pay you. Would you settle on something based on my situation? And that's what that first one is. Doubt is collectability. And the next one is efficient tax administration. In other words, exceptional circumstances. And you've heard me use the example, and this again is for the new people, of the mother that was working as an accountant for a large firm, and her child was going through cancer treatment. She was a single mom. She had nobody else to lean on, nobody else to help with the expenses. In order for her child to get the cancer treatment, she started embezzling money from the company. Well, her child got the treatments. Everything was working out great until she was discovered. And of course, she was fired. And to put a cherry on the top, the IRS says, "Oh, did you know embezzled funds come with a tax liability?" So this was one of those cases where once the facts came out, they actually sided in her behalf on this particular exceptional circumstances. Under effective tax administration, they wiped out her debt.
They have a heart.
So they did have, it's a little tiny one. It's like the Grinch. You know, you got to really look hard for it. And then doubt as to liability. What would doubt as to liability? IRS, you sent me a CP 2000 letter. I had moved 3 times since you had that old address. I never got the letter. Now all of a sudden you've caught up with me and you tell me that I owe you $80,000. I don't think I do. Whatever you were adjusting, you did it without my consent. You did it based on a CP 2000. So if you've got those circumstances and you can go ahead and prove that, yes, what the adjustment was that you made without my knowledge wasn't valid, here's the proof, I don't owe you this money. So that's your third type, doubt as to liability. Okay, let's go back. Okay, again, current rules, keep your nose clean. Make sure that you're filing your tax return timely, or if you can't, file an extension. Always file on time. Make sure your estimated tax payments are being made if you're self-employed. Don't file for bankruptcy before or after filing for an offer in compromise. It's like sending in an offer in compromise and then throwing a grenade in the envelope. You're going to blow the whole thing up. And be sure to send in the required application fees. You send this in without the 205 and the 20%, guess what they're going to do? 6 months later, you get it back and they say, "You never sent us the funds." Reapply if you want to. But what happens is you got to get, when you send this in, you're using 3 months records of all these things that I told you about. It takes the taxpayer time to accumulate 3 months worth of utility bills and
Everything.
car insurance and car payment and all these other things. And now all of a sudden, all that stuff is old. You got to update all the documents again. So, and the balances have probably changed. So, all right, next slide. Fresh start rules. Alan, this is right down your alley, buddy. Fresh start rules. Section 1, you get to write $1,000 off. So if you only have $1,000 in the bank, guess how much you have in current assets? Zero. $3,450 off of each vehicle, no more than two. It must be a married couple filing for this. If you're single, you only get $3,450. If you're married, you get $6,900. Off your vehicles. I said it was 9,000. It's actually $11,710 off of your personal assets. What are personal assets? Bedroom furniture, living room furniture, kitchen, pots, pans, personal assets. What's in your house that would be valued if you moved out? If you loaded up the moving van, what would everything in the moving van be worth? As long as it doesn't come out to more than 11,710, you're going to cancel that out too. Huh?
It's 11.
Yeah, send it out.
Okay.
Okay, here, I'll
Okay.
got it. Okay. All right. Next slide. All right. Yeah, here it is. 3 months bank statements and 3 month statements on all monthly obligations. What does that mean?
Utility.
Anything you have to pay, you got to produce an invoice for it or a receipt or something to show that those were expenses you had to pay. All account numbers and balances on all your accounts. You got to take time with the 433A, and if you have a business, the 433B and the 656 form, and send them all in. You heard me mention earlier that 2025 allowable living expenses national standard from the internet. So that you pull off the internet. You grab that. How many people in the family? 2. How much money did you make last year? 100,000. Find it on the chart. That's the amount you drop in for the monthly for allowable living expenses. Next slide, please. All right, got to quiz your taxpayer. All right, why did this happen? Was it due to illness? Was it due to death of a loved one? Did you lose your job? Was it a national disaster? What kind of dilemma came into your life that created this? And if you had that dilemma, is it still there? Well, Ben, I got this problem with drugs. All right, well, have you been rehabbed? Or are you still out on the street at night? Well, on the weekends. Well, then, your problem hadn't gone away. You haven't solved the problem. So, lots of times when we're writing up an explanation, we need to show that whatever the problem was, it's been resolved and that we're back, I'm on second chance territory right now. My life is finally starting to line back up again. I got a new woman in my life. She's helping get me straight and get me back on the right track. Well, that's great, but are you still going to work every day? Are you still bringing in a paycheck? Are you paying your taxes if we have to do estimated payments? You really want to make sure that this is something that for the next 5 years, they're going to be able to stay clean. Okay, let's go back to you need to come up with a good, convincing argument that the taxpayer is back on the right path again. And then the question is, how are you, if they do agree on your offer and compromise, under the example that we had $8,000 that we decided on, you've already paid in 1,600. Okay, for this last 6,400, can you pay that in 2 weeks? Can you pay it in 45 days? How can you pay it? When can you pay it? So we need to, if IRS does agree with that amount, how's the taxpayer going to make the payment? Well, my mom said if I needed the money, she would loan it to me. Okay. So you'll make it in one payment? Yeah. Okay, we'll put that in. So as soon as we hear from IRS, we'll have about 30 days for you to make that payment and get it taken care of. So be sure that there's a way to close this out at the end. It's not just now you only owe $6,400. Oh, good. They'll have about 8 years to try to collect that from me. No, doesn't work that way. You got to. They settled on this lower amount. You got to now pay it up, and you got to get up one of the plans that they have listed, and you tell them in advance how he's going to pay it. All right, next slide.
What's PIF? What's PIF?
Paid in full.
Got it.
Okay.
I had the IRS wait for someone to refinance their home. So I gave them some extra time to refinance.
Yeah,
their home.
yeah, and that's good. And usually, if you're doing that, they have. I'm trying to think what they call it. Just not coming to mind right now. But in essence, they move IRS back one spot so that the mortgage company can become the first in line on that house. Because right now, once the mortgage company, once they go to refinance, they drop out of first place and IRS moves up to first. Subordinate, thank you. A subordination clause. So IRS has to agree to subordination. And what they'll do is they'll subordinate first place back to the mortgage company.
And then they reminded me we can't deduct the mortgage interest.
Thank you, Vic. You know, after all the years of knowing subordinate in the mortgage industry, I dealt with subordination agreements all the time. It's back in a file cabinet stuck in the back of my head somewhere, and I just can't access it right now. Thank you for your help. If denied, you have 30 days to file for a CDP hearing. Or if you're denied the CDP hearing, you have 30 days to apply to tax court. Wow, Ben, do you mean we can go back into tax court? Yes, but guess what? You're limited to only talking about collection options. You no longer have liability discussions with IRS. That debt is set. All you can do is try to coordinate an acceptable collection procedure that's good for everybody. You can also go back and request a cap or an equivalent hearing. And like I said, bankruptcy is sort of a third option, if that is your only option left. Next slide. Okay, again, we just talked about this, how you're going to pay that if they agree with it. You got to be a model citizen for the next 5 years. You got to really keep your nose clean with the IRS. And hopefully, as a tax professional, you got paid up front. Because if you didn't, it may be a long time before you see any money on this deal. This is the one thing I've learned through time. When you have people with multiple tax returns that they need to get filed, when you have people that you're doing this kind of work with, that's the one thing I learned from attorneys. Get that retainer check up front. Now, you want to probably wait and make sure that check clears too. But you get your retainer money up front. Now, if you're using credit cards, if you're using Square, yeah, you'll know that pretty soon. If you're using Zelle, you'll know that in 30 seconds. And, you know, but let's see what else we got here. Next slide. Fees are non-refundable. We already said that. IRS will take a while to review, but collections and statute statutes of limitation
Limitation.
are suspended. What do I mean here? When you apply for an offer in compromise, you toll the statute again, just like with installment agreement. So if you're applying for an offer in compromise, and Vic, help me on this if I'm off base. It's the time that it takes for the offer in compromise, and I think they add on an extra 6 months to that. So if it takes them a year to process your offer in compromise, they toll the statute by a year and 6 months. Why do they get the extra 6 months? Aggravation time. I don't know. I've never gotten an answer to that question, but that's, all right. Now, here's the magic bullet. With the IRS and the government closed down right now, from the time you submit this offer in compromise, now it does have to get logged in. That's the unfortunate thing. They have 2 years to make a decision on it. If they don't make a decision within 2 years, guess what? You play the default card. Guess what, IRS? You just agreed to our plan, because the law says if you haven't come up with a decision in 2 years, you have to accept our proposal. So you got that working for you. It's deemed accepted. Okay. Your client 90-day letter on filing tax court. Now what? Well, like I said, to remain with the leverage, you got to file that tax court petition. Even if you file a tax court petition and agree to concede later on, at least you remained in a position of authority. And I've seen cases where the taxpayer didn't have any credibility to get an adjustment. And just because they filed a tax court petition, they're given like a 15% break on the tax. Just because the IRS wanted to get this, the attorneys wanted to get this case closed and out, we'll give you 15%. Just go away. With them, you have to understand, you're not really on a quota system, but yet you are. We used to have what we called hot potato cases. Anything over 45 days in the file became a hot potato. You needed to get those moved, get them out, get them moving, get them done. They've got probably the same situation. You got stuff that you just want to get it off your plate. Audit reconsideration. Now, audit reconsideration, once you're in collections, once you got audit reconsideration, that's your Hail Mary. That's your last shot in collections at trying to get anything done. So if you go into audit consideration, you have to be prepared. This is not a case where, I'll bring that information back next week. No, you have everything you anticipate you're going to need to defend that taxpayer. And you go in ready to try to solve and come up with a solution, because there is no appeal beyond audit consideration. So, okay, back up on that same slide. All right, so audit consideration is sort of your Hail Mary. If everything else is expired, you've lost all other leverage, that's all you got left. Next stop is collections, but you still have some options. Next slide. All right, we've talked about this. It's either a 1058 letter or an LT11 letter that you get on lien and levy. You've got 30 days from that standpoint to file for a CDP hearing. That's Form 12-153. Like I said, I think I would file for a CDP hearing. There's no cost to it, but it preserves, what was the term I just used? Leverage. It preserves leverage for you in dealing with the IRS. If you miss the deadline, you still got up to 1 year to file for an equivalent hearing using the same form, the 12-153. The only difference is the equivalent hearing doesn't give you the option to go into tax court. Next slide, please. CDP ruling, if it comes back rejected, you have an additional 30 days to petition the IRS for tax court. Like I said, the good thing about petitioning for tax court, it goes on chief counsel's register as another case. And as I was saying, if they've got a lot of cases that they have backed up with chief counsel, even if your client doesn't have a strong case, you'll probably get some kind of relief. Not saying it'll be a lot, but any kind of relief is good. So why not file for a tax court petition? Cost your taxpayer $60 to do it. Now, if your taxpayer, go back to the CP 2000 letter. If your taxpayer never had a chance to defend themselves against the CP 2000 letter, they can, if they go to tax court, the judge may be willing to hear their underlying explanation and allow them back in on liability issues. Are they even liable for this debt? So that's always a possibility. That's the reason I say file the tax court petition, just in case they've never had a chance to defend what that CP 2000 letter accused them of. They could have had identity theft, and somebody filed all kinds of crazy income against them that they never earned. Well, this is your time to defend that. Your Honor, that wasn't me. My identity was stolen. Here's the paperwork. I have a police report. Filed a form with the IRS, told them my identity was stolen. They still counted that income against me on the CP 2000. Okay. Now you got some grounds, but you got to be in front of the judge to get anybody to hear it. So, okay, next slide, please. Collection Appeals Program, CAP. That's Form 9423. If you're beyond any other filings, you can always file the CAP.